My name is Carrie Kelly, and Sarah's my coworker. She drove from Elmira, the home office, this morning to be with us. And I'm super excited to have Drew Detzner here again. Drew was with us last winter, and Drew is a nutritionist who practices in New Berlin. Actually, he opened up his new practice very recently called 3D Wellness, whereby he is setting up in-person and virtual training, education for clinicians and their staff on food, nutrition, whole food supplements. So we're super excited to have Drew here today. So Drew is here with us today to talk about diets, certain diets, and he's going to really be presenting through a case study fashion. And then also we're going to delve a little bit into protein needs, and then if time allows, we'll delve into seasonal allergies, just because that's what's very apropos right now. And so, all right, Drew, you can start. Thanks.
Thank you.
Cool, so that was the keto case. Okay. Let's go to case study 2. Intermittent fasting. Who's hearing about this one lately? Yeah, okay. Another big thing, social media, the internet, the advertisements, the weight loss plans, okay? The idea of intermittent fasting is that it's daily eating window of 4 to 8 hours. So if your first meal is at 6 a.m., your last meal is at 2 p.m., okay? If your first meal is at noon, your last meal is at 8 p.m., okay? It does not involve calorie reduction. It's one of the reasons it's really, really popular. People like it a lot because they can eat all the same stuff just in a very specific window of time. Does that make sense? I'm not asking you to change your foods, to add, to reduce, to restrict. I'm just saying you can only do it during these hours. There's no macro ranges, so there's no goal with the protein, with the carbohydrate, with the fat, like we saw with the keto. And just for the record, macro, it's an abbreviation for macronutrients. Those are protein, carbohydrate, and fat. If your clients, just a quick side note, patients don't know protein, carbohydrate, and fat are the macronutrients, I strongly encourage you to get them up to speed on that before you give them any kind of eating plan so they can read labels with some degree of competence. You can do it as a vegan, as a vegetarian, as an omnivore, as a carnivore. Again, I'm not telling you to eat any different foods. I'm just telling you to only eat them during this time each day. And like I said, it is very popular. Part of that is because there's a huge amount of resources online and because some very popular social media people are promoting it. Let's go forward. All right, so this was a woman who was 50. She was 5'8" and 185 pounds. 1 week on intermittent fasting, her appetite got all screwy. Okay. She was supposed to eat during this window. She wasn't hungry during the window, and then when she was supposed to stop eating, her appetite kicked up. Ugh. Her bowels changed. Everybody hungry for lunch? Okay. Tannish, yellowish bowels. Yeah. And hanger. Who's had hanger before? Who lives with somebody who gets hangry? Oh man, my wife used to get hangry. So much Diaplex. So much Diaplex. 4 weeks on intermittent fasting, her appetite was greatly reduced. So now it's not just inconsistent. Now she doesn't even want food. It's a bad sign, okay? There should be some time each day that a person wants food. Food causes abdomen aches. So now when she does muster it up to have some food, it hurts her. Her bowels are way off. It's not just the color, it's the frequency. And her sleep got worse. So now she's just like our first case study, she's mad. Intermittent fasting was supposed to fix these things. My stomach was supposed to feel better. My appetite was supposed to be reduced, but then strong, you know. She's really upset and she's only a month in. Okay. All right, so after 2 months, she found me via a Google search. I'm amazed. I don't know what she Googled or how it came to me, but it came to me. I determined she had liver congestion, she had hydrochloric insufficiency or stomach acid trouble. She had bile insufficiency, she still had her gallbladder, and anxiety about food. And that was one of the biggest deals for her. She never used to have food anxiety. But now the thought of food, the thought of having to eat in that window, And what if my appetite isn't there? What if my appetite is strong when it's outside of that window? Really started to mess with her head. So I started this strategy, Colaplex. Oh, love me some Colaplex. I broke it down for you. So it's got the bile salts from Colacol. Who's used Colacol with somebody before? It's a fantastic product. Soothing brain food, Orchex. Who uses Orchex? Who's read the clinical reference guide description of Orchex? It is straight out of the 60s. Can anybody quote it for me? It's for the guy who's about to blow his stack. Literally what it says. Okay. Soothing B vitamins. Cataplex B2. We used to know it as Cataplex G. Now it's B2. Fat digestion support via Cataplex F. And tissue restoring vitamin C. That's the Cyruta. That's just what's in Colaplex. So play this game with me for a second. Your patient or client walks up to the front desk and you give them a bottle of Colaplex. They're probably going to be okay with that, right? It's like $40, it's one bottle. Or you get out Colacol, Orchex, Cataplex B2, Cataplex F, Cyruta. You give them 5 bottles and then you ring that up. Probably less happy, right?
I just have a quick question with the hydrochloric deficiency. You determined that was because she initiated the intermittent fasting, or do you think that was chronic before? Or you don't even know?
I don't think it was because of the intermittent fasting.
No,
I think it was there.
Okay.
She had a little bit of digestive distress before she met me. It's just that the intermittent fasting really cranked it.
Okay.
Yeah. Spanish Black Radish, because we want out with the junk and in with the good, and Mintrain, because we always want to get more minerals. So this person left with 3 bottles, but technically 7 different standard processed supplements. Okay? No, technically 8. Because Mintran is half calcium lactate and half organically bound minerals. Let's flip it. All right, so 2 weeks of me, less burping, less bloating. Any ideas what was probably doing the less burping and less bloating? Was it on Zypam? The Colacol inside the Colaplex. Spanish Black probably helped too. A month with me, she had less burping, less bloating, and her brain started to work better. That's that Orchex. All right, might also be because like the Mintran is brain food and Spanish Black was getting junk out of her, but we also gave her Orchex, which is brain food. 6 weeks, less burp and bloat, increased mental clarity. She's hungry when she wakes up, and she's sleeping through the night. So she's really happy. I think that was Orchex and Mintran. What do you call it when you mix Mintran and Orchex together? Minchex, very good. 8 weeks with me. Less burp and bloat, increased brain power, hungry when she wakes up. Her bowels are the correct color again. Yay! She's seeing all these changes now, slowly becoming her favorite person too. 10 weeks in, all that stuff got better, and her husband likes me because she's not hangry anymore, okay? And then the husband loves me more after 3 months because in addition to no hanger, her libido also went up. What do you think this is? You think I just like talking about libido increases all the time, or what do these 2 cases have in common? What organ did we really take care of? Hormones, balanced by the?
Spanish Black Radish.
Which organ? Liver. The liver. The more you take care of their liver, the better their libido is. Again and again. It's not where they're making the hormones that are going to drive their libido, but it's where the body is balancing the hormones. So you can deliver me 1,000 pounds of potatoes, but I can't give you 1,000 pounds of French fries because I can't process 1,000 pounds of potatoes. And that's what the liver goes through with these hormones. All these hormones are going to the liver to be balanced. And the liver is not equipped or nourished enough to handle it. So it says, you know what? I can survive without sex, but I cannot survive without these hormones related to brain function, my immune system, etc. Does that make sense?
Ready?
Client found their intermittent fasting window. This is a really big deal on intermittent fasting, and it is not discussed in all those social media posts. She was told to skip breakfast. She was told to eat between noon and 8 p.m. And if she was going to be aggressive and lose more weight, she was going to eat between noon and 4 p.m. only. That did not work for her. So she shifted that big time. She was waking up hungry. She came in and she said, I'm supposed to wait until noon. I can't do it. I'm drinking all the water on earth. I'm drinking all the green tea. I got energy, but I'm so hungry that it's distracting me all the time. I said, great, well, you're up at 6, start eating at 6. She goes, no. If you're intermittent fasting, you skip breakfast. And I said, no, if you're intermittent fasting, you're only eating during a certain window each day. So she ate between 6 a.m. and noon or 1 every day. She loved it. She adored it. That was her intermittent fasting window. One size does not fit all. Okay, some people skip breakfast. Great, it works for you. Cool. I got a client who works 3rd shift, so she's up all night, overnight. I have to have her eating during that time. She's a nurse. She's on her feet. She's moving. She's grooving. She needs the caloric intake to fuel her. Then she's sleeping during the day. I wouldn't tell her to wake up from her sleep to eat. She needs a rest. She's a nurse in a hospital, right? They're burdened already. To continue it, Livoplex, 6-in-1 liver love. Zypan for that hydrochloric acid and pancreas support, and then our minerals and our cleaning, Mintran and Spanish Black Radish. Really starting to get a feel for why the promotion today is the promotion today, right? Questions on this?
So the Colaplex, was that just for the first 2 months, did you say, or 3 months, and then you transitioned to this?
If I'm remembering correctly, so I do hair analyses every 6 months. I believe she was on Colaplex for the whole first 6 months that she was with me. And part of that was because the improvements she was reporting, so many of them I could link to the ingredients in Colaplex, and I really wasn't interested in taking that from her. I was muscle testing her program at every visit, though, just to make sure her body liked it, because if the body says stop it, we'll stop it. Yeah, Colaplex is great long term.
I just wonder why you changed to Colaplex. But I'm not familiar, I haven't used much Colaplex, mostly.
Gotcha. So there's some overlap, a little bit of overlap in terms of desired action. But Livoplex is much more like if you think about a rechargeable battery. Livoplex is going to recharge that liver battery. Colaplex is more geared towards there's a problem with the housing on the battery, and I got to seal that up before I try to put electricity back in it. Yes, I'm huge on allergies. Yes, my clients all know it. It helps. Cool. Other questions on the intermittent fasting?
I have a question. When she started, was she eating whole foods?
Yeah, she was doing pretty clean. Nobody comes from eating perfect.
Yeah.
No. But she was doing really well. She was above the average by far. Yeah. So when she was coming in and she was having lunch was usually a rotisserie chicken with 2 servings of vegetables, and that was it. She wasn't adding any fat to it. So my critique there was, let's add a fat, right? For like satiety. Okay. Dinner was usually some variation on protein and produce, and then she would have a snack before she would start her fasting period. The snack wasn't always perfect. Sometimes it was Rice Krispies. Okay. So she was a human, but for the most part, she was all of 3/4 in on spot on food.
Drew, maybe you could elaborate a little bit about Spanish black radish, because
Sure.
that's something grown on our farm. It's not really common everyday produce, but certainly easy sulfur. Like, just if you don't mind elaborating.
Sure. So Spanish black radish is my desert island supplement, and it's for one reason. If you have hardwood floors in your house, I want you to picture them. And if you don't, just picture hardwood floors. Okay. Imagine a vacuum cleaner that picks up the dust and the pet hair and leaves behind a buffed finish. That's Spanish black radish for your body. Spanish black radish naturally is half detox and half nutrient. So what happens with a lot of detoxes, and you've probably heard your patients and clients say this already, when we did that detox, I felt amazing. Oh, I felt so good. You've heard them say this, right? But now it's 3 months later, it's 4 months later, and I don't feel the effect anymore. Okay? That's because, I'm going to do it this way. Let's say that this is their body. Okay? Let's say that this fork is a toxin. They come to you and there's a toxin in their body. And you do a detox with them. You very effectively remove the toxin. Well, that's great. Until a few months later, some other toxin shows up and wants to go in. Does that make sense? What Spanish black radish does differently, once it takes out the toxin, it leaves behind nutrient. So when the next toxin tries to show up, it can't get it. There's no void left behind. The big problem with most detoxes is they pull the junk out of an area, but then they leave a void there, and the next junk that comes by says, look, space for me, and hops right in. Does that make sense? So the power of Spanish Black Radish is that it's going to gently pull things out and not allow the next jerk to show up and set up shop. It's grown in over 3 feet of topsoil at Standard Process Farm. It's rich in all sorts of stuff. Sulfur was mentioned by Carrie, but also has vitamin A. It's got C in it. It's got calcium. It's got phosphorus. It's got a food source of folate. You're not going to find that on the market. There are folates out there, but they're not going to be food source. So that's why so many of my people go on Spanish Black Radish. That makes sense? Did I scare anybody when I poke my hand with the fork? No? You're good? Okay. Other questions come up. Yeah?
Did she ever have thyroid antibodies tested?
This lady? I don't think so. There are some of my clients that run like TG. We run the antibodies on the blood work. In her case, we didn't. Other questions come to mind?
Can you take this long term?
Yeah, you can take it indefinitely. Just keeps helping. It doesn't force a detox, which is so important. There are some times where we want to like force a detox, right? Like there's something we know they had an exposure. I have a client who's a mason worker. I know he's exposed to aluminum because it's in the mortar that he uses to put bricks together and he cuts through it all, right? But with Spanish Black Radish, we're not forcing the body to do all that. We're just saying, here are the nutrients. If you have some junk to get out, you're equipped to do so. I'm going to go to case study number 3, but like I said before, I expect you all to eat.